We're still working on our Tulip Fields rag quilt, but first, always remember to share this so it will save to your profile and you can find it when you're looking for it again later. Grab your free download of this Tulip Fields pattern linked in the caption. We're still working on our Tulip Fields quilt. Now remember, we're making it a rag quilt. So we sewed our tulips and we sewed them two different ways. And you sew them however is easier for you, whatever you like best, that's how I want you to do them. Now, I have this row of tulips that I've sewn, I've ironed. Now I've put a piece of cotton on the back, face down, 2 layers of flannel, and my row of tulips face up. I've pinned it all. Now what I'm gonna do is just go and sew on each side of the seams, just like this. I'm gonna sew down this side and I'm gonna sew down this side. Now, you can stitch in the ditch, but y'all know my stitch never ends up in the ditch, and I know there's all these tools that you can get that make it easy, you tell me, but I'm just gonna sew it on the side because it's easy and I like it that way. But you quilt yours any way you want to. You do want to put some stitches in it so that it holds your pieces together. So when we clip it and rag it, it won't get like balloony where the fabric, the cotton comes away from the flannel. So I'm just gonna stitch mine by following the edge of my presser foot with the seam all the way down. Straight stitch, back stitching when I start and when I stop, because my grandma said so.
You've already made your tulips, you've sewn them into blocks. So now what we're doing is just attaching the flannel and the back so that we can sew our rows together and clip it and make the most precious rag quilt ever.
Now, after you sew down each seam, you see that? Do you see my stitches on the back? That's what it looks like all the way down my row. Now I'm gonna take all of my clips off and I'm gonna trim it up. I did also sew along the edge of the end because at the end of making your rag quilt, you have to sew all the way around. And if I sewed this, I could trim this extra off and it wouldn't be flapping in the wind. So I did that. I'm gonna trim it up and we're gonna sew this row to our other rows. We have our last row done. We're gonna add it to our other rows. So we have Ditsy Daisies, tulips, Ditsy Daisies, and tulips. So we're going to place them with the pretty sides on the outside. Remember, we want the back touching and the pretty sides on the outside. And we're gonna stitch this with a little wider seam than we normally do. I'm actually gonna do mine with a lot wider seam than I normally do, but I feel like I could make mine 5 inches and I'd still clip my seams whenever I rag. So I'm gonna do mine about a 1/2 inch, but you make yours as wide as you're comfortable. And you're gonna sew it the same way, straight stitch, back stitching when you start and when you stop, because my grandma said so.
And I think this pattern actually has Ditsy Daisies at the top and then tulips and then Ditsy Daisies, but I put my tulips at the top because this pattern is not the boss of me.
One of my sewing students told me if I would sew a row and clip a row and sew a row and clip a row, the clipping's not so bad. And you know what? She was a genius. She is a genius. She's still a genius. So I have clipped some of my rows and I still have this row to clip because I love a rag quilt. I just don't really love clipping it. It takes 700 years. And the better you clip it, the prettier it is. And y'all want to know what this brush is. It's actually a boar's hair brush, I think. One of the ladies at one of my sewing retreats had one, and I was jealous because it was kind of genius. It ragged everything. It made it look so pretty. Because, you know, I've been using a nail brush, and that will work. But this is easier on the hands, too, for sure. So they say that you're supposed to clip 1/8 of an inch, but I'm not sure who can do that. Actually, I know who can do it. My retreat students were doing it, and it was pretty impressive. I hardly have the patience for that. But the closer you clip it, the prettier it rags. So clip it as close as your patience will allow you. These are Missouri Star Quilt Company's new rag snips they just came out with this year, and they're pretty snazzy. So I'm gonna clip mine, and you go clip yours. And when we're finished, we're gonna have, look how cute this is. This precious tulip rag quilt. There's a free download for this pattern linked in the caption. My name is Tammy. I'm your favorite sewing teacher, and I would love for you to come sew with me.